How much like trauma do you think it takes to be like as funny as I am? Come in, come in. Okay. Hi guys, and welcome to our third episode of From Tantrums to Tea. This is our special guest Puddin. She's going to be our emotional support animal throughout this process of this episode, at least. So,
She's got an interesting way of going about this one.
yeah, she's
I'm talking about you.
Oh,
I'm talking about you have an interesting.
Oh.
You have an interesting.
So this episode, we're going to be talking about traumas, troubles, and traveling, and we're going to start with the deep and dark stuff first.
She said she wanted to. She was talking about doing troubles and travel and trauma, and I said you got to start from one end and work your way to the other. That doesn't make any sense to me.
So we're going to start dark, and then we'll lighten up as the episode goes on. But
jumping in first,
you know, less sparkle here and there. But okay, so what is, well, if you would like to share.
and don't
look, there's a lot of stuff going on. Okay,
I'm not. I think people who have experienced certain traumas, they're not really. Yeah, they're okay not sharing. I mean, I guess it's okay talking about it, but
okay. Well, if you would like to share, what do you think is one of the most traumatic situations that you've been through that's impacted you the most?
My childhood.
Okay. Hardships, okay.
What do you think is your trauma? Let's see how bad of a parent I was. What do you think is your most traumatic event?
Well, you didn't say you didn't say what's the most traumatic thing that you've been through in your childhood. You said what's the most traumatic event. So I'm not going to say anything from my childhood because that didn't impact me like as bad as.
Yay.
We have some traumas now, but at the end of the day got to end. Okay.
But that's not even, are we talking about trauma right now?
Yeah. It doesn't matter how bad it impacted it.
I think this all boils down to what you feel like is trauma.
Yeah, I guess. Well, anyways, obviously that's not the most traumatic thing that's happened to me. Well, it's not obvious, I guess, but I don't really have like a lot of trauma like with my family. It was just with my ex, and it was, I don't know, it was just a lot of things that were not right. And I had to, even though he was gaslighting and manipulating me, I had to gaslight and manipulate myself because I thought I was crazy, but I wasn't. Anyways, long story short, I wanted to leave him. And as soon as I wanted to leave him and get out, I found out I was pregnant. He told me he didn't want the baby. I had no business having a baby, but I would have done it by myself.
Oh, you're just spilling all of the tea.
That's what this is.
Okay. Listen, I was just as shocked as everybody else is about to be.
Right. So,
Puddin's abandoning us. That's trauma. Come here.
She has bad FOMO, I think.
But she's a pretty girl. She's nosy. She's being nosy.
No, I think she has FOMO when it comes to Tim. I think she's.
Oh, when it comes to anything that she hears, she's got FOMO because she's nosy. That's what I'm saying.
She wants to know what you're eating, what you're doing, where you're going, all types of stuff.
All the things you said to nosy girl.
But yeah, I mean, I would have done it by myself. I didn't really want to be associated with him and the family anymore, so I kind of just did what he wanted me to do and got an abortion. And I wouldn't say it's like the worst thing I ever did in my life. It was definitely one of the worst pains I ever felt in my life. And then obviously emotionally, there's always like that the what ifs in the back of my head, or what could be in the back of my head. But all in all, so that happened. We broke up. We tried to make it work. And then when I told him I was done for real, he busted my door down because he heard me on the phone with somebody and took my phone tried to go through it. And then
I wish I was there for that.
And then great. Fast forward to like maybe like a week later, like I told him like no communication, like I'm really done. I was actually on my way to work and he was like basically just cussing me out and like gaslighting me into everything that he did for me. And then that night I went home with my friends. We were drinking and he was stalking me. So yeah, that whole relationship I think was just traumatic for me.
Well, since we're spilling the tea, then I feel like technically, like you needed to come to a place where you needed to acknowledge, like you were the side piece.
Yeah, he was married, and he was. I don't know if he was convincing me or himself that he was going to get a divorce, but long story short,
because every time you all would break up, he'd go back to his
we
wife.
Never broke up. We only broke up that one time.
Well, that's breaking up. That okay.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it doesn't matter if whether or not. This
last time y'all broke up, you saw that he posted about him being with his wife. So that's two times.
Yeah, see, that was traumatic. I'm not even gonna lie. It wasn't the fact that like, it wasn't even the fact that he went back or whatever. It was really just the fact that like I felt like you didn't even love me the way that you told me you loved me, because you had somebody by your side the whole time that wasn't me. I don't know how to explain it, but when I saw it, I cried, just not because it's like the relationship was over, just because it just sucks like hearing somebody tell you, oh, I love you so much all the time, and then they act like it's nothing. So, but that was like me, that was a personal problem, obviously. But yeah, he was married, and for 4 years he convinced me the whole time.
Shout out actually to all the side pieces. Right. Ain't nothing wrong with being a side piece, but it's only a problem if you're a side piece for the intention of it to change. If you have to understand, if somebody, anybody, a friend, a partner,
look how she's sitting,
a business client, if they're not coming to you, an employee, if they're not coming to you correct the way that they're supposed to, then you have to understand how they come to you is how they're going to continue to come to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to learn that.
Oh yeah, we were messing around and finding out for a while. And yeah, well, anyways, so yeah, I feel like that was probably one of the most traumatic experiences. Or maybe when my mom came to me one morning, and everybody was trying to get a hold of me this morning, and I just wanted a slow morning. Like I was chilling, mom and my brother were going to get food, and my mom, like everybody was trying to get a hold of me, like I said. Then my mom comes to me and she's like, oh, you need to go to your grandma's house. And I'm like, why? And then she told me that my freaking dad had a heart attack. And maybe it was the traumatic experience, I don't know, but my brain doesn't really like remember a whole lot from the 3 weeks since it happened and then since I got back. But I just know that like I couldn't really feel anything besides like pain. Like there was pain everywhere in my body. Like I couldn't even stand. Like I just fell to my knees. I was asking my mom if he was dead and like what happened, and then I went to my grandma's house, and within like an hour we packed up and drove to Texas. We were there at 6 a.m. But that was a lot. That was really traumatic for me, actually.
So my side of the story to that, I guess I don't know if I would say traumatic. I feel like I deal with things that happen now differently. So I can't say it was exceptionally hard. I would say that was also around one of the hardest parts of my life, because during that time, Tim and I were in the middle of our separation. Weren't we in the middle of our separation?
So. Oh yeah,
we were. So my husband and I had our first separation, and that was during our 11th year of marriage. No, it was during we were about to we were like on our 10th year of marriage. It doesn't matter. During this time, my husband and I were separated. My son was being a real teenage turd, in my opinion. This is my take on it. and the kids were still, y'all were still in the house. And so just having a rough go at life, me just trying to work, trying to half-ass be a decent mom, trying not to drink and smoke too much, just, when I had my off time. And I went out with your aunt that night before. Now, mind you, that day started off for me. This was the day before everything went down. So this would have been a Saturday. I think a Saturday. It doesn't matter. But yes, it was a Saturday. That day went down for me in such a way where it was just a free Saturday. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to buy me a couple tall boys and I'm going to make some mac and cheese. That's all I was going to do. And then my friend came over and then she had some mac and cheese. And she was just like, oh, I'm going to go to my friend's house up the road. Would you like the road dog? And I was like, sure. So they were trying to get me to drink shots. And I wasn't drinking any because I had my beer. I was happy with my beer. Okay. I think she told me that I don't think I took a shot at the house. I think she told me that I did, but I don't think I did. I remember drinking my beer and being happy with my beer. Well, I drank all my beer. And everybody was all hanging out. And then we went to Zum Rosenhof. I don't know why we went to Zum Rosenhof, but we did. And I wanted my potato salad. And then
I think you're talking about
Nope.
that wasn't the right day.
Yep. Yes, it was. And we drank apparently for another 3 or 4 hours. And when we went to, it was just a whole night. Like, it was one of those nights that you don't plan and it just like goes into a whole frenzy. Had a good time. There was a point where I remember her telling me where I was just like, oh, I want something to drink. And she was like, water or beer? And I was like, I just want something to drink. And she handed me beer. And I was like, that's never what you do. You always hand water. And I do remember taking a couple of shots because then they were doing shots. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And they're like, yes, you are. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But then I was already drunk. So then, off of beer. Yeah. And they were like, yes, you are. And I was like, okay. And then I did it. But I held on to my potato salad because I got potato salad. And I held on to that the whole night and brought it home. Woke up the next morning and felt like I got hit by a bus. I woke up the next day and I remember going in the house. I remember taking a jacket off that I borrowed from somebody, and I don't remember anything else, but I made it to the bed and I woke up the next day and I felt like a train hit me. And it took me a minute to eat. Like, I had to lay back down and then I got back up. So it took me a couple of hours to even get up. So then I called Carla and I was like, and I remember drinking my tall boys, but we're talking about from 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah. And then I think she dropped me off around 11 o'clock. So I was thinking I had maybe my 4 tall boys and maybe a beer or something. No, she said I had 3 or 4 more beer, and they have tall glasses that are 2 beers. She said I had 2 or 3 more of those, and then those couple of shots, and I was like, oh, well, that makes so much more sense. And so we have this whole conversation, get off the phone. A couple of hours later, she calls me and she says, Crystal, BJ's in the hospital. And I was like, what? Feeling so you must have not have known this. I was 1,000% hungover.
I don't even remember. That's the thing. I don't remember. I don't even remember how you told me. I remember because she was stalling. She was like, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, what is it? And I already knew it was bad by the way she was looking at me. And then I was like, I thought it was my grandma. So I was freaking out. I was like, is it grandma? What happened? What happened? And then she was like, your dad had a heart attack. So but I don't remember really anything is kind of blurrier and
So scenes. Hungover me was mustering up the words. It took me a minute. So that's the problem, right? I was just, so she's telling me and I'm just like, fuck, I am so hungover. I could have still been drunk when I woke up. It was just that bad. And then she calls me with that and I'm okay. I have to
process.
I took a second and then I was mustering up whatever little adrenaline I had through the booze. And then I go to tell her, and that's why I was stuttering, because I was just like, okay, your dad had a heart attack. And because then I knew it was hard to do things. Okay. It was really hard to do things. and then I had to tell Boya, and then
No, I told him because Boy and Alexis went to go get food,
and
I
they
think,
came
from El
back.
Cazador, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I was crying, and Boy was like, what happened? And I hugged him, and I was like, Dad had a heart attack. And then he started freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah.
So I had to put on some clothes and tell them to pack up their essentials and take them over there. And I get back, and so I'm hungover, and I already feel like trash. And keep in mind, my perspective is, so my son was going through this phase of wanting to move with his dad, and excuse me, I didn't want him to do that because I felt that it was better that he finished school here. And there was some other things that were involved in that, but my son was just acting some type of way behind the fact that I didn't really want him to move. But I want to say they ended up before all of this even happened a few weeks ago, we ended up making arrangements, his father and I, about Boya going over there. So I want to say it was like 2 weeks or a week before he was supposed to come get our son. This happens. Now, mind you, my opinion.
Hold on, let me stop her right there. So, yeah, this happens in the process like the week before he was supposed to come down here to pick up Boya. And the day, I think either the day before, well, it happened on Sunday, I think. So I think that Friday I texted my dad and I was like, hey, I love you and I miss you. I'm so excited for you guys to come down here when you pick up Boya because I want to see you. So I just wanted to put that in there because that was just weird how I texted him 2 days before. He was fine. And then Sunday, like life just lifes.
So, it's been hard for me raising these kids because when you're a blended family or when you're in a separated family, the parent who's not there is normally the parent who's desired the most, and the parent who is there is normally gets the back end of that, right? That's just how math works. And that's fine. It's not a big deal. But I'm just over here also thinking to myself, wow, but it could have been the booze. I don't know. But I know I was over here like, if this man really dies, somehow that's going to be my fault. Like, because then Boya didn't get a chance to go stay with his dad, and he didn't get a chance to observe like why I didn't want him to stay over there. So there's always going to be that question, oh, you didn't let me stay over there, and da 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 da. And then it's just like, gosh. And so now I'm rooting. Well, I mean, I wouldn't want my baby daddy to die anyway, but I'm over here rooting like, this mofo better not like really do this. Like, this is not fair. You need to wake your ass up and do what you're supposed to do. Like,
so he actually did his heart. I mean, I guess that means you die, yeah, when your heart stops. His heart stopped for 35 minutes, and he was in a coma for 2 weeks. And he woke up one day, and he had a trach in his throat, so he had to learn how to talk and swallow and redo all that things. And then he just had 100% recovery. So, the doctors said that even if he did wake up, he would have a low quality of life. And he wouldn't be able to do all or most of the things that he was able to do before the accident.
He seems to be doing just fine though.
But he has a stent in his heart, and he is thriving. So thank God.
Shout out
to
the baby daddy,
to my daddy.
But that was a lot. It was a lot that was into that.
Yeah. So let's get into you though, and your little nitty gritty stuff. I got into my nitty gritty.
Trash. What part do you want?
I got into my nitty gritty.
I guess you need to just pick a phase of life and tell me to pick something, because there's trash in like every life that I've lived.
Well, I feel like maybe I don't know, like maybe just whatever you're willing to share or whatever you don't mind sharing. Maybe like one or two things that you know specifically or remember specifically that kind of, deteriorated your mind or something.
I mean, I think I grew up kind of just being able to take it, but I mean, I don't know. Pick a time frame.
Let's do one story when you were in middle school, one story when or after you had us.
Okay, middle school is just It's just trash. So traumatic in middle school. Well, I'll say that, going into high school and realizing how traumatic it was in middle school, meaning like how tragic, like looking back on myself in middle school was almost its own trauma. like,
like literally, like
yeah. So, my mom worked at the school during part of my middle school life. And that in itself made things pretty rocky. And um, wow. So that's why I said pick a time period, because now I'm thinking it's like all this
yeah,
stuff is like kind of popping up. It's just like, oh.
yeah,
So I know one time it was, I was pretty, I don't know. I don't even know if I want to say traumatized. That's just kind of how like my life was growing up. So I guess you just learn to take it. But if I was to pick some things that were jacked up, is like one time my mom. So I got, back. We stayed. We had an outside school where it was the classrooms, and then you out all the hallways were outside covered. And so whenever a teacher would get aggravated with you, or you would like get in trouble, but it wasn't enough for a write up, they would just send you outside, like a timeout.
yeah.
And I get sent outside probably because I was running my mouth. I really didn't do anything too much, but sometimes I would just get caught up running my mouth or laughing or something silly. And sure enough, my mom was walking down the hallway, and she saw me outside, and it was just like, oh man. And she gave me the what's up. Didn't ask what I did, didn't really talk to me, just kind of like berated me. And then, so by the time I went back to class, I was almost in tears. So that was embarrassing, because then they were like, what happened? And it's just like, I'm not going to tell them that I ran into my mom in the hallway.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with that? One of my so-called best friends that I had from elementary school and then up until this time, got into a big fight, a big physical fight with one of the friends that I had, and that was pretty awful to see. Like she was, my friend, she was very aggressive, and she got into this really nasty fight where she like had her foot on her back, and she was just like pulling her hair. Like she had long hair.
Oh my god.
Yeah, she was like pulling her hair, and oh, so I had a friend, and you have friends you think you're really close and all that, which we were. I mean, it's fine. But so we were 8th grade, end of 8th grade. We actually did a graduation prep for a couple days at the end of the school year. And so it was our last day to go outside to the outback. So when you had lunch, if you had a bag lunch, or if you were done with lunch, or you had your own lunch, you can go to the outback, and it was just a place to play around. And all of us were supposed to get together and take pictures and do all that cutesy stuff. And I was looking for my best friend, and I remember seeing her walking off, but I didn't know like where she went or what happened. And so like in the middle of the lunch, I was just like, where is so and so? And they were like, I don't know, I haven't seen her. And I was like, okay, let me see. And here I go, and I walk over to where I saw her walk, and it was the other side of the school, but it was just an open field, so you could just walk to the other side of the school, and there was a hallway, and there was a bathroom right there, where there was a guy standing outside of the bathroom. And I was like, where's my friend? And he was like, don't worry about it. And I was like, where's my friend? And he was just like, oh, she's in here. So she chose to service somebody in the boys' bathroom, because he moved out the way, and I opened the door, and the stall was closed, but there was like feet leaning up against the wall, and she was on her knees. And that pissed me off. So I mean,
How
like,
old were y'all?
we were whatever you are, and when you're in 8th grade, what, 14, 13?
12?
Aren't you at least a teenager then?
I think I
you're
was
like
12.
No, I think you're 13.
Maybe 13.
Well, but I'm an October baby, so I was
think I was
older.
13.
So I would have been.
No, that's right, because I was 16 when I was a junior, so that's right.
So I might have been 14 then, or 13
Okay.
or 14, but 13, whatever. I'm in October, so I was held back, so I was older.
Look, y'all don't have no business.
So
I don't care. I don't care, a teenager or not.
So I was pissed, and then she was over here when the bell rang. Like we're all like going back to where we're supposed to go, and she's like, "Dude," and I was just like, "Man, whatever. Like you chose to do this with like nobody even knew who he was, and we weren't like able to take photos or hang out or do this, that, and the other." So all of that was middle school trash. And then you said something after I had you guys, like a traumatic event after I had you guys.
Oh my goodness, you're so cute.
Traumatic? I mean, I would say for me, look, raising kids is trauma. Just like 8th grade is trauma. Like raising kids is trauma. But for me, I think because of my upbringing and just like who I was at the time, anything that I was exceptionally emotional or overwhelmed. I was very sensitive when it came to anything that had to do with my kids.